Welcome back. Earlier we asked for your calls about Paul O'Grady, and Vanessa's back to take them now. Hello, Vanessa.
Hello, there have been so many. I mean, the lines have been aflame with people just wanting to say how wonderful he was.
I bet. And actually, we're just checking in with one of Paul's closest friends now, Sally Lindsay, who's got in touch, and she's here. Hi, Sally. I mean, we're all feeling it. I can't imagine how you are, because you were friends for a long time.
A long, long time, yeah. It's quite a shock this morning. I'm with you because I know that if he'd said, he would have said, if they got anyone else or anyone he didn't know, he would have said, "What have you got her hair on for? I can't stand it." And that's why I'm here, because I'd rather not be. Let's put it that way.
Yeah,
it's a big shock, and everyone's devastated.
And so you met Paul back in your Corrie days, and
yeah, we were friends he started his daytime show, and which was wonderful. So I must have had about 40 busters by the end of it, because I was always on, and we just got on really well, and we'd had projects together. Oh, that's Joe Joyner, that's not me.
Oh yeah, sorry about that.
Everyone always gets us mixed up. That's hysterical. He would have loved that.
So that's what you see. That was kind of the beginning of then a friendship, but not just a working relationship, but a real friendship as well. I mean, you both bonded over your dogs. Didn't he have a pet name for your dog as well? Yeah,
he called the Mop, because I've got a poodle, you see. But yeah, we were working on a project we've got a new project together very recently. So the last time I spoke to him was last Thursday, and he had to he had to go because one of his pigs was ill. And the vet was knocking on the door. So that was the last time I spoke to him, which I never thought it was the last time. You never do you?
No, you never do.
Yeah, he was... what I want to say about Paul is, and the reason I'm on, is he was a whirlwind. He was funny, intelligent. There was no one like him. But what he was as well, he was a social warrior, and he couldn't bear what was going on at the moment, with the working classes and the cost of living. And he used to be incandescent about it, and he never lost his roots like that. He was always a very, very real man, but also hysterically funny. You went out to dinner with him, and it was exhausting because you were laughing that much. There was no one like him. And the world is a darker place today.
Sally, thank you for joining us. That's a very fitting tribute to your friend Paul. Thank you so much, and sending lots of love to you and all of his family and friends as well.
I mean, this is one of those things where people really are on the verge of tears, but also saying so much how funny he was.
Yeah.
Because when you remember him, you want to laugh, but when you think you're never going to see him again or hear him again, you really want to cry, because this isn't pretend. This is all very, very real. You can see Sally could barely speak.
I know, absolutely.
And Carol Vorderman could barely speak, and it's a terrible shock, and he was such a gigantic personality in every way, as they say, political, clever, funny, really kind, really amazing person.
Yeah.
That the loss is huge. It's proper.
Yeah.
It's really big.
Let's speak to Maggie now, because she's on the line. Thank you for joining us this morning. What are your memories of Paul? When did you meet him?
Oh, good morning. I met Paul back in the 1980s, when he used to perform twice a week at the Royal Vauxhall Tavern in London, and he used to compare a show that was on twice a week called Stars of the Future. He used to sit on the side of the stage, introduce the acts, and he didn't earn very much money, very little in fact, for the evening. But we used to have great fun. He sort of used to lift our spirits. We were a gang of nurses, and we used to go there after work, and we didn't have to drink, because he just made you feel light. He made you feel happy. He made you feel elated. And it was hard times at that time, back in the 80s. There was a lot going on in the world. And as he's already been described, he was passionate about fairness and about equal opportunities, and relentless. But he made you feel good. I suppose I was a little in love with him, really. I certainly loved him, and you couldn't help that. You felt that goodness sort of ooze from him. And he was so good. I've had so many texts from people this morning who are saying, do you remember the nicknames he gave us? And he used to call me the librarian. And
Was it nice for you, sort of knowing him from back then, right, that sort of stage in his career, then to watch him on...
I met him a few times on London Bridge Station and with Buster, and I had... dog, and so we had that shared in common. We used to phone each other and everything back in the days, you know, and he always used to say, oh, come and I'll leave a ticket for you. And I remember him, I think he did the Pretty Polly advert, you know. I'm sure it was his legs. He certainly...
Had the legs
had fabulous legs,
yeah.
amazing legs, yeah.
Maggie, thank you for sharing your story. It's good to talk to you.
Thank
Nice
you,
to hear that
Maggie.
side of him.
Love to his family.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Wow. Let's speak to Fred now. Have we got Fred on the line?
Yeah, hi, Joe.
Hi,
Fred. So he was a guest on your show, is that right?
Yeah, it was a forerunner of all paranormal shows called Most Haunted, and I'm the demonologist on it, and a demonologist does all these sort of dark things on it. You know, Holly would love it.
No, not my favourite thing.
So anyway, Paul appeared on the show about 3 or 4 times, I think. But this one time we did a live show on Halloween. And I did my usual thing, calling up the dark stuff in Latin. And I know Paul loves the paranormal. He loves the paranormal. But he was a bit scared of the paranormal, a bit like Holly. You know, he didn't want to sort of face anything. No. So he went running off and opened the door and hid in the coal cellar, which he called, I'm going in the coal hole. So I went over to the door and started banging on the door and shouting in Latin. And it absolutely scared the life out of him.
He did.
When he came out, we all had a good laugh about it. And he started talking about dogs like he does. And because I've got Irish wolfhounds. Oh, right. And it's someone you could meet and you thought you'd known him for years. You know, he's such a lovely man.
True.
Yeah, very personable.
You really missed.
Yeah, he had that way, didn't he? And you said it earlier on, just made you feel like the one person
Everybody
in the room.
felt like that about him. So there's not anyone who, you know, anyone that he passed by would remember that moment forever. This is not an exaggeration. Really, it's true. Because he would say something so personal. He called people, as you keep hearing, special names. And when someone gives you a special name, it makes you feel special. It does, you know. And he'd focus on you. He'd say something incredibly funny, very personal, and you would remember it for the rest of your life. That's the kind of man he was. A real special person.
Well, Jade would agree with you.
Yeah.
She says, I met Paul when I was on his show. They had a segment on fostering and I was on because I was an experienced foster carer. Well, you sound like a lovely person too, Jade. He spent lots of time with us in the green room afterwards and had us in stitches with his stories. He was a genuinely lovely man. I've adored him ever since and he's such a loss to this world.
And the thing that's amazing was that part of his persona, as everybody will remember, was to be moaning, a bit cross, a bit short-tempered. But the contrast between that and his real personality, which really wasn't that. No. Yes, he was very real. Yes, he was very political. Yes, he was very clever. But he was really nice and funny. And that made it such an amazingly kind of rounded, interesting personality.
Yeah.
Wonderful person,
What, like, a wonderful legacy, though.
Incredible.
To have that incredible body of work and the fact that everyone is calling in, everyone's saying what a lovely human being he is.
Right.
I know, you wish you could hear it.
Yeah, and also, we should say, very blue. You know, it wasn't like he was a saintly person.
No.
You know, he walked on the wild side.
Yeah.
Filthy, absolutely. And always told
filthy.
everyone to be as filthy as they could.
Yeah.
That was always his advice. You know, when I was on the Big Breakfast Bed, what should you be? Filthy. Denise Van Outen said, well, you know, she said, what shall I do? You know, new presenter on the Big Breakfast. She said, just be filthy. Just be as filthy as you can. And
let's all be more filthy.
God, was he filthy. Absolutely.
We've got Susan here, says, my husband was working with Paul in the theatre. Paul found out that my husband's daughter wanted to be a vet when she grew up. Paul gave her a call and they had a conversation that lasted over 45 minutes about dogs. This was in the middle of doing a show, but he took the time out to speak to her. He was an amazing man who will be sorely missed.
And this is the thing, that's not just for the cameras. This is just what he's doing.
And there are lots of people who present shows and they don't, you know, they might look in the green room and say, hi, everybody, all right? But that's not him.
No.
So you can't fake that stuff, you know, to be really genuinely interested. And I suppose because he'd been a social worker, you could see that's where his heart really lay with people.
This is an important one. Just last week, Paul says, I went to see Paul O'Grady and Annie, the musical at Edinburgh Playhouse, and it's extraordinary. He was on stage up until that point. I'm so gutted this morning to hear of his death. He put on a fantastic performance last week and he looked so well. As a gay man, Paul inspired me to come out as gay. I used to always think nobody judged him, so nobody would judge me. And You know, that's another
truly
really important thing, isn't it?
Yeah, he blazed a path in
Yeah.
so many, many different directions. And I was on the limo bike this morning. My driver, Alan, had dropped Paul only a few days ago. And he said, Paul said, oh, it's so great doing Annie, because the routines I learned 30 years ago have just come clicking straight back in. So he was obviously in a great mood, in a great way.
Well,
so that's
pleased
good, isn't
about
it?
that.
So am
yeah,
I.
good to know that.
Yeah.
Vanessa, thank you. And thanks for sharing your memories as well as Paul. It's lovely to hear those this morning.